Doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited. Should be good matches.
Yeah, so of course we are following Biofrost and Aphromoo. Right now we can actually hear the mainstream in our ears. Hopefully you guys cannot, but if you can, we'll just talk louder than they are. But Biofrost with Aphromoo, Special, talk to me about sort of how you contrast these two players.
Old player versus a new player, rookie versus veteran. Aphromoo, playmaking, shot caller, Biofrost, role player, and kind of follows his team. And it's just very different contrast in terms of the roles on the team, but play style wise and in terms of champion play, I feel like they're really similar.
Okay, Matt, how about you?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing because Aphro is like by far the most experienced player. I mean, oh shit.
Hello?
My bad. But Aphro is, I mean, I've always looked up to Aphro. Like for the longest time, I've always looked up to Aphro as like a really experienced support player. And it's really interesting to see how Biofrost, as a support player, he's so new to the LCS stage, and he's already performing really well. And he's mirroring the champions as Aphromoo. It's just a little different how Aphro is the shot caller, and I don't think Biofrost would be like the main shot caller for TSM, but yeah. He's definitely going to be looking to make the same sort of plays Aphro's going to be doing.
And you can see actually on the graphic a little while ago, the champions most played were the three same ones for both those players. And we are now getting ourselves into champ select. And so, being a sport-focused stream, 2 support bans already, Bard and Tom Kench. Talk to me sort of why these have been so highly contested and moved away from pools so often.
So Tom Kench, I think, is really strong tank support against other tanks as well. He like actually has some kill pressure, but he also works really well to disengage. So like if Braum tries to go in, gets a Q on somebody, you can eat the guy. Tries to ult somebody, eat the guy. You know, all these things that Tom Kench just denies. And Bard is just pretty much their TSM is just saying, all right, Aphromoo, we don't want you to carry this game. We're gonna ban Bard. Bard is such a Aphromoo can carry on champion, and Karma ban as well. I think Karma is one of those picks that are just working really well in this new patch because of the 2v1, sorry, 2v2 and 2v1 is removal. And Karma is just one of the most lane dominant supports in the game. And with it being banned, we're just gonna see tanks, straight up.
Trundle vs. Braum, calling it now.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
Bard,
Terry?
yeah, I mean, with the Bard and Karma bans, they're really looking towards the melee matchups, since I think Bard is a really interesting range support because he acts sort of as like a primary engager at times, and that's a really interesting tool set to have as a range support, since range support lanes are usually looking to get priority and abuse that sort of priority advantage that you can get, and you don't really get that off of the melee champions, and Bard's really good at just getting those engages off.
So describe for me what you mean with sort of priority for players who may not be familiar with the team. Like what does priority in lane look like? How do you get it?
Okay, so usually in bot lane, if you have a range support matchup versus a melee matchup, it's a really, it's a lot more easy to get the advantage of being able to push out the lane and being able to poke. And on the melee support side, you're usually going to get shoved in. So what priority means is you're going to be able to either push in the lane freely whenever you want, or maybe just have the advantage to win any sort of trades and sort of just cement the dominance in the lane.
Yeah, priority is just basically you get to move first, and the enemy team has to choose to either follow you or just give up pressure. And priority is really important because that allows you to invade and allows you to just do things that they can't. And when you don't have priority, you're scared. You don't know what they're going to do, and if you don't have wards, then they can do whatever they want. And in this situation, for the picks, kind of want to go back to that.
Yeah, of course.
I think, so with the Trundle pick, it's pretty much guaranteed to be support, and that makes it a little weird because Trundle is a really strong support that is normally countered by the range supports, and because range supports aren't as popular right now, or at least when these two are banned, when Bard or Karma are banned, there's not much you can really do here. I feel like they're gonna go with Braum because that's really the only melee support that's good. Alistar's the other one here that is just not good into Trundle, and I don't know. I'm really curious to see what priorities TSM have that we just kind of learned from the first game. It's a new patch, and it's hard to tell what teams would like to prioritize, but seeing the Trundle so early is kind of surprising to me. It just means that they think Trundle is better than the other two right now.
I think right now from yesterday's match, Mortals, they were definitely prioritizing a lot for Trundle, and I think the reasoning behind it would be they think it's a really good blindable pick, since Trundle into most melee matchup lanes, no matter what the AD carries are, I think Trundle has a lot of dominance over whatever melee support, let's say Alistar or Braum.
Or Soraka.
well, maybe not Soraka, just the
Well,
melee
you're mentioning tank
support.
support.
But,
Those are good matchups, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean they picked Soraka, right? So
I'd
that
say
kind of
TSM thought that Trundle would be a really good blind pick, but looks like CLG was prepping for that, and they wanted to counter Soraka.
Yeah, the funny thing is, the only Soraka picks we've seen as of even 6.14 were only in North America, and then there have been 2 outside of earlier today in Europe. So I guess 3 now, and this being the 4th in the world of 616 and higher. It's like 1 in Turkey, there's like 1 in Brazil or something like that, and then G2 played it, and now we've got this one from Aphromoo. So like very rare to see this champion at all. And now, oh, sorry, your blind pick Trundle is now in a worse spot.
I mean, I think the funniest thing is yesterday Morris was playing, and they didn't pick Soraka
5
once.
games, Adrian could have played it.
Yeah, and I was thinking the whole time, like, if a team would have played Soraka, it would have been Immortals, and it would have been yesterday, and it would have been the first few games, and to not see it was very surprising to me. But to see COG pick it up, I think it should mean that Immortals was practicing it, or at least COG was practicing against Immortals, since that's how teams kind of swim against each other. Like, teams on opposite sides of the bracket will swim against each other.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I'm surprised to not see more Soraka, because usually in a 2v2 meta, you just see a lot of Soraka. It's just like, she's a strong laner.
So real quick for the stream, the graphics, there we go. It's Aurelion Sol. It didn't hover at first, but now you can see Aurelion Sol last pick there for Hui to complete the champ select here. So you talked about sort of priority in lane. Sivir Soraka seems like it's going to have pressure kind of all the time. So in terms of the actual play, just to break it down on a very basic level, like if I'm coming into the game, loading the Summoner's Rift, playing a 2-on-2, how am I looking to play Sivir Soraka against Jhin Trundle, assuming that the Sivir Soraka is supposed to win?
So I'd say Sivir Soraka, it's a lane where you can play it both ways. You can play it to just farm and just shove in the lane, which I'd suggest in solo queue. Like, that's a really strong playstyle, just shoving in the lane and making sure you're never going to be gankable. But in competitive, that's not really a viable option. So here, I'd say for CLG, they'd be wanting to play the lane by shoving in the first 2 waves, just to make sure that they don't get surprised by any sort of pillar level 2 all-in by the Jhin Trundle, because Jhin Trundle does have a good level 2 all-in. But after the level 2, I'd say if they're in a position where they can just take really good trades by controlling brush, and Soraka basically just sits in the brush, looks for any trades on the AD carry when he walks up to get creeps, that's basically the win condition for Sivir and Soraka, to just keep pressuring them on every creep and make sure that they get punished if Jhin wants to match them in CS.
Yeah, Sivir Soraka is actually very scared to play on purple side, because especially against a Rek'Sai, because Rek'Sai can tunnel in behind you, and a Sivir Soraka has no escapes. You're gonna die against a Trundle in this Trundle Rek'Sai gang. It's just inevitable. A pillar into a Rek'Sai knockup, you're just dead. So yeah, try to push up initially, try to get that wave pushed in, and then afterwards you have to really find out where the jungler is in order to play aggressive. And in solo queue, for example, you can probably get away with playing extremely aggressive and just not giving a care in the world, but TSM knows that's how COG wants to play, and COG knows that TSM wants to gank, so it's kind of like the mind game. We're like, all right, they want to gank us, we want to pressure, but we can't pressure because they gank us, so we need to play safe, and yeah, and then once they see Rek'Sai, then they can play aggressive. So it's like they have to seesaw the pressure depending on where the jungler is.
Yeah, so to touch a little more on that, for bot lane, there's a lot of influence on like the jungle matchup. So for example, this matchup, jungle jungle Rek'Sai and Gragas, they're going to they'll have similar clear speeds, so they can expect to maybe counter gank. CLG might be having the plan of maybe shoving in the first 2 waves, and by the time the siege creep cannon wave hits, the timing will be around 3 minutes and 30, where Rek'Sai and Gragas could look to maybe fight over Scuttle Crab, and it's up to CLG whether they continue to push the 3rd wave to contest the crab vision, or maybe they try to have the wave push back to them and have the Gragas to maybe counter gank the Rek'Sai if they're still continuing to push the lane.
All right, so definitely a lot of things to keep in mind based on jungle movements and how the lane looks at right now. We're looking at actually, looks like a jungle camp start Gromp for the AD carrying support of CLG, and similar for TSM. We didn't see much of that actually in the G2 UOL series this morning, but we are seeing camp starts. And to continue to kind of just continue to dive on details as we get the game to start, what are the pros and cons of getting this kind of start? Because it can be punished, but it seems like it isn't all that frequently.
Yeah, I think for camps, it's probably the more standard way to approach it, because there's a lot of variants for level 1s for the range support. Like, for example, you can send brush and try and control the wave. So here, if they were already in lane, they'd be pushing the lane already. But since they match the camps, they'll be hitting level 2 at the same time, and I think this gives TSM the opportunity to push the lane and not be pressured by the Soraka yet.
And you can see this Soraka basically hiding in the brush the whole time and looking for these blind Qs. I don't believe they've actually... and you can see, yeah, TSM would have to waste their only available trinket right now if they wanted to get vision on the Soraka.
Which they should, honestly. They actually are doing a really good job right now. CLG is conceding level 2, and I mean, there's multiple ways to play this lane, but right now, CLG is just, okay, well, Trundle is actually walking aggressively to get that ward. This is actually a really good ward. It lets you, A, figure out where the jungler is starting, and B, lets you know where he's gonna go, because if he's not at blue at this point, or near this point, then it means that he's doing a weird path. But obviously, Greg is going through his blue. Actually, we'll see where he goes. But anyways, that ward just lets you have vision to see where the jungler is, and lets your jungler know, and it's just good. It's just a good ward to have.
Yeah, I'd like to touch a little bit more on that because this is actually what we call the TSM ward. TSM loves to always place this ward when they get party in their lane and they know for sure they'll get level 2. So here, they place the ward, and depending on the Rek'Sai pathing, they'll be looking to shove in bot lane by the second wave and the third wave so that they can contest the blue. So imagine if Rek'Sai was still around bot side and they had the lane shoved in. Sivir's in a position where she has to wave clear under the turret, otherwise she's missing all of her creeps. And while she's going to be last hitting all the creeps, the Jhin and Trundle can rotate to blue, and yeah, probably
push
blue.
Gragas off.
Yeah, it's a very standard play by TSM.
That's cool. I didn't actually know that they did that so frequently, but that's cool. Like, you have a name for it.
Yep.
That's honestly like one of the things that's really interesting to me as a player is like how much you guys research each other's teams and know their tendencies. It's really cool.
Basically, Matt's just basically saying that TSM just abused teams like us so hard in the scrims that we're like, all right, this TSM war it's got to go. We can't deal with this. It's too much.
I mean, I think there's a decent amount of counterplay. So what is really strong against them trying to play for the blue is that if you make sure your wave doesn't crash under tower, you won't lose any creeps while they try to contest your blue. So as long as you make sure the wave doesn't crash, then they don't have any pressure for taking the blue buff.
So that's the whole point of the priority, is just like, when you have lane priority, you're not losing anything and gaining something. And that's what pushing the wave does, because the wave, they have to deal with the wave, but you have no wave. So you're not losing anything while you're gaining something.
Yeah, so to touch more on priority, like, priority is clearly an advantage, but it's an intangible advantage. Actually, they're going for it.
This is crazy.
All right. Wow, early dive, the Hu roam. Goodbye to double of Soraka. I mean, he couldn't flash away. The silent zone was there.
Yeah, that was really well played by CLG because they had the wave shoving up, and with a huge wave, they communicated with Huhi that, yeah, they have a huge wave to build off, and they can dive bot, regardless if Rek'Sai was there or not. And I mean, Rek'Sai obviously wasn't there, so they had the information that, yeah, they had Huhi and Gragas could roam down and just take that free dive.
That's what you're talking about, that priority doesn't have like intrinsic value, but it has openings that you could use, and it was, hey, bots shoving down, we're going to be under the turret, Huhi push your lane and come down. I'd love to see that again, honestly, because the entire coordination of that, right? That's like a minute in the making, saying bots going to push, get priority, come down.
Yeah, so the core concept there is priority is an intangible lead, but you have to have the skills to turn that into a tangible lead. What I mean by that is, you know, priority doesn't actually get you anything since it's all about just the tempo of it.
Right.
And once you get the tempo and you make the first play, that's when you get the tangible lead, like getting a turret, getting a kill just now, and that's where the real leads come from.
Yeah, that was really surprising. It's such an early roam, and it's really early into the game. And honestly, I feel like Devil kind of misplayed this. If he was full HP here and he didn't walk into the E from Soraka, he could have flashed away, maybe dodged a Gragas. It was weird. I feel like he could have played that a little differently in a way where he could have probably avoided that dev.
Yeah, right now we see Trundle roaming all the way top side.
Well, CLG put in the duo here as well.
Yeah.
They're matching.
Yeah. It was just matching the turrets. Yeah, I see. My bad. I wasn't looking at it, but
Yeah.
the
Double
standard
stolen
play after
bot.
making a good play bot side is to rotate your bot lane to top, because after 5 minutes, the turret buff of
Fortification,
armor,
it's called.
Yeah, fortification is removed, and they can go for the first blood turret gold, and it looks like, yeah, TSM was trying to match that and defend the tower.
Yeah, with all their money, CLG already had a BF sword on Sivir, so you know she's going to push faster than Jhin will. Also, she's Sivir, she pushes faster than Jhin does, so difficulty there. But yeah, you saw Biofrost roams up to match it. Haunter's still going to wave clear, and looks like not too much ends up getting gained.
I don't really see the point of that. They didn't actually get anything off that. I felt like they lost their lead from just going top for no reason, because they lost a giant wave bot. So
I think it was during the replay, but I'd say TSM was trying to match the CLG play, because if Trundle didn't actually go top and he went back to bot, then CLG will be up so much tempo, they'd be able to crash the wave on top, maybe even dive GP, since GP is a very susceptible to getting dove. And if they were able to get a dive off on GP without Trundle being there, then yeah, they probably would have got a first blood turret, maybe chunk the tower really down if not, and be up even more advantage off that, all stemming off of the bot lane play.
do you think they could have dove 4v2?
Yeah, I think so with Gragas, and I think at the time maybe Huhi did not have mid priority, but imagining if he did have party and roam top, then that would be the strongest play to make. Was a 4v2 dive top.
Yeah, thought it looked weird just because it didn't seem like they could dive. Because GP actually has really good wave clear. So when you try to match a lane in TV1 like that, to try to swap your bot lane top, you have to make sure they can't clear the wave. And in that case, Trundle was there, allowing them to clear the wave easily, and that actually put them really far behind because now they collected top wave and they crashed in the bot wave. So Gnar just lost
a million
waves,
gold.
and Sivir didn't catch waves. So like even though they are ahead, you can't really see from maybe you can see, but COG is actually behind in gold despite the first blood.
Yeah, right now it's 9,800 and 9,600 TSM's advantage. It's, you know, Gangplank himself is up 12 CS. That's kind of nice. But yeah, Svenskaren's out farming. He's a level up on Nick Smithy. Doublelift's roughly matched in minions. And the sad thing for Counterlogic Gaming's first blood is the 400 gold went to Aphromoo. He actually got the last hit there from his E or the back half, or from the back half of his E or from his Q or something. So yeah, money not even in the right places. And you're right. Like, basically, CLG did the play they did all quarterfinals against Liquid, where they do a 6-minute swap top lane, and TSM's like, well, we saw you play best of 5. I bet you I know what your play is. Here's the CLG lane swap, and match them up. And you're right, it was a big tempo loss. Doublelift soloed bot lane, showed into the turret, knowing what CLG's doing.
Yeah, it actually was really smart. Like, I didn't see if that's exactly what they were planning, but if that was the case, then
Yeah, because it happened during the replay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just sucks that we couldn't see it, but like, but that's pretty much the advantage of, you know, being a higher seed, being the first seed or second seed. You get to see what these teams do and the tendencies and just exploit it. And yeah, I don't know. I personally feel like GP at level 6, maybe he was still level 5 at that point. Like level 6 GP can easily wave clear, and if he can defend that whole wave, that's so much momentum that's lost that that COG lost despite the first blood. And still, Huhi and Nick Smithy, they're probably all behind because they made such a huge investment for that one kill. And to only get one kill and not be able to turn out and snowball that can hurt them because now mid's behind, jungle's slightly behind, and in this case, their top laner is behind too, just because GBTV bot and got some of the extra gold. So the fact, even though they got first blood, like it doesn't really mean much when they're still down 200 gold.
Yeah, so overall for CLG, even though they made a really good early game play, since they committed to maybe not a bad macro plan, but it was a well-countered macro plan by TSM.
Yeah.
They ended up being in the losing position now. They're down gold, and overall they're down pressure off of what they had like a really good tempo lead.
Well, CLG looking for a bit more pressure, though. You saw them roaming Aphromoo up, but as well as Huhi towards his top lane. This Gangplank is alone, and there's no globals for TSM to match. Svenskaren just now hitting level 6, but I don't see him having any tunnels all that nearby. Styx's gonna do what he can, but you mentioned, yeah, Gangplank's wave clear tends to be pretty strong. It's barrels basically against boomerangs, as Darshan's gonna be occasionally walking back and forth into that bot lane trying to deal with everything else.
Yeah, I mean, right now this is a really bad position for CLG because I guess they're just trying to commit to this this pressure top, but I'd say like clearing it, I mean, trying to take the tower in front of GP is a really bad idea because he has all these barrels, like he can, well, he missed that barrel, but he can definitely look to wave clear this wave and still catch up in CS. Whereas on the other side of the map, Jin, who was already in a losing position, like if he matched lanes, he would have been in a much worse position. But now he's even fine. He's only down 10 CS when he should have been probably down 20 CS.
So what's a little curious is that Gnar actually has TP advantage here, and Gnar can actually TP top to go for this dive. But Gragas is actually doing his own jungle, so they aren't actually ready for this dive. Concert could have played way more aggressively at his turret and actually wave clear before the turret even went down to half. But right now the turret's actually at 30%, but it could have been like near full if he had just been more aggressive, if he had a ward for himself. But
you're right, CLG could 4v1 that Gangplank for sure, and instead TSM is the one to get first turret gold.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I feel like CLG should have went for that top turret. They invested to put two people top. They should have, you know, sent the jungler top too, but here, they're just going for a bot play.
Well, Poncer's ultimate is down, as is his teleport. A couple of good flashes. Yeah, I mean, TSM lose plenty of cooldowns and whatnot, but it is still a 400 gold bounty going TSM's way thanks to first turret. We'll see if anything else happens in the back half of this. Afro, ooh.
Yeah, I still don't like how CLG played this because, yes, they had, I mean, they had TP advantage, and I guess, I don't know what they were saving for. Since GP TP is already coming back up, they should have definitely used the TP towards top and try to get that first blood turret gold. Not sure what, like, the planning was here for their, like, macro game.
Well, to be fair, GP was playing kind of safe, respecting that, but Gnar could have still made the play. I'm not sure why he didn't, because if they had made that play, they could have easily had 4 people top with the Gragas, but Gragas' bot side kind of, at that time, is going to his own jungle. If he had 4 people top, they would have easily built that turret, get the top turret, use your own TP and go for second turret as well, because you're just gonna have 4 people up there. 1 person's dead on the enemy team, 2 people
Yeah.
at bot, so they just have the whole tempo advantage. But I mean, I don't know. I just have to keep watching and see what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot more to happen in this game, so we're going to keep focusing on Biofrost and Aphromoo here. One thing I've noticed that pro supports do a whole lot is actually get under-leveled. They seem to kind of willingly give away experience to their solo laners, to their AD carry. Some of that is them, how much of that is just them trying to make sure they have good vision? How much of them is actually them trying to donate experience away in your experiences?
Well, honestly, it just doesn't. Oh, honestly, it doesn't matter if you get EXP or not, because on a support, there's just power spikes. The big power spikes for most supports is level 6. So basically, from level 6 to 11, it doesn't matter if you're level 7 or you're level 10. It's generally about the same. And those power spikes just, you can afford to give it away. You want your AD carry, for example, to hit 6 a minute before. You want your AD carry to hit 11. You want him to get items. So giving him EXP is great. And you don't want to fall too far behind, but it just doesn't matter as much because your support, your goal is to get vision. So it's a combination of both, really.
Okay.
I also wanted to touch a little bit on what CLG wants to do, but I'm not too sure. Since they sent their Saber back to top lane after you know, the initial turret trade that they did, usually when you send your bot lane to a lane, you want to set up for an objective. But on top side of the map, the tier 1 tower is already gone, and the only thing up is Rift. And I don't think they want to be trading Rift for anything, especially a Dragon. So I'm not too sure. I think what they really want to be doing here is just pressuring GP really hard. As you can see, they're trying to dive the GP, but
clears it.
Yeah, it's not working out, and now they're in a really bad position. Oh, that was a good flash silence.
Really good silence by Aphro, yeah. Turn it off, but now he's got to run away from Bjergsen. He's going to get rooted
This is
up.
a really bad position now.
Yeah.
They're able to get out. That's pretty good by Afro. I think if he maybe didn't flash slow that, Jin would have been able to slow down the rest of them, and maybe Cassio could have caught up.
This is not looking good for CLG because, so CLG are trying to be proactive. They're trying to make the plays, but they're behind now, and their team comp is not a team comp that will outscale. So I'm actually really worried for CLG's team comp right now. I feel like they are trying really hard. They're pretty much saying, guys, like, we will try win as a team. We're trying to get ahead as a team, but we're not going to be able to carry individually. And that's what they're doing. They're investing so much resources into trying to get ahead. And right now, only Sivir is ahead on their team. I mean, Sivir and Soraka. But everyone else is actually significantly behind. And that's going to put them in a situation where they're going to be pressured in side lanes. You're going to have less damage overall in team fights. And it's going to be up to Sivir to carry. Unless they can get a huge lead, which they're not getting right now.
Right, yeah.
But the key mistakes here from CLG, I think they were playing up until the lane swaps were happening because, I mean, they were playing it well. The real reason why CLG is behind right now is all about lane assignment. Like, they didn't send their AD carry to the right lanes 2 times now. When they sent their AD carry top initially, it seemed like a really forecasted play from how it looked like because Trundle was able to easily respond to a top. GP was able to clear the waves very easily without dying. I'd say for both times that Sivir went top side, if she went to the better lane, which was bot side, CLG would be up a lot more advantage because they'd be able to make a lot more plays happen bot side. They had a bot tower, and they had the Dragon to play for. And right now, well, I guess you couldn't see, but I can tell you that TSM has a lot of vision control bot side, and CLG, if they were to try to go back to bot side, they would just not be able to control much. They couldn't be able to clear any of the vision in their own jungle, and it's honestly all just came down to sending Sivir to the wrong lane for CLG.
So talk to me, you mentioned the big vision advantage that TSM has, right? So obviously CLG swapped away, Biofrost had free roam to put whatever wards he wants down there. Their Rek'Sai, actually no wards for himself, just the trinket. But talk to me about sort of, you know, if you have a bunch of, we'll say priority on that side of the map, right? In this case, it was CLG swaps away, but let's say, you know, you double kill the bot lane at level 6 or something like that. You know, where are you trying to put the wards down? What kinds of wards are you looking for? Sort of how do you, on a sort of specific level, like you have an advantage, how do you get the vision advantage now? And then how do you keep it to keep them from, like, you know, getting that vision back?
So I can talk a little bit about what I say is like the mantra of League of Legends. So what you want to be looking for in League is priority, vision, and then objective. So what I mean by priority is, like you said, if you get a double kill in bot lane, that's a huge amount of priority.
Yeah.
They're dead. So what you want to gain off of your priority is getting your vision. And vision depends on what objective you're playing for. So let's say the tier 1 tower is still up. You want to get vision around the enemy jungle so your jungler can safely enter the jungle without getting like picked off by anyone while he's going for maybe a turret dive. Or let's say we're setting up Dragon. You want to be setting up Dragon vision control depending on whether you have a top lane flanker, like let's say a Mega Gnar coming in, or you have any sort of flank engage, maybe controlling around the choke areas. Like some team comps are really good, like let's say GP ult on the choke, nobody can get through there.
Yep.
And if they do, they're just going to die. So that's really what Vision is about. It's about understanding how your team comp has to play into controlling objectives. So I'd say for TSM, they have a really, really strong choke control team. They have a GP ult, they have Cassiopeia W, they have Jin W, and Trundle Pillar. So the way they want to set up Vision is around all the choke areas of Dragon Pit if they're contesting Dragon, and they want to start Dragon whenever they want, and hopefully CLG will try to contest them through the chokes, and that's when TSM just has to wait to hit the go button, and they just collapse all on CLG when they're heading through the chokes.
And then on the flip side, of course, CLG, I guess they're still keeping their AD carry towards the top side. Are they just forfeiting that control of the map and trying to play around this sort of left side jungle? Are they just kind of making the same play where they have priority because they're 3v1 over here?
I mean, as I touched on earlier, I think CLG had the wrong lane assignment by sending Sivir top both times. Since your AD carry is your strong side, that's the side you want to be playing for. The top lane has TP. He can always show up in the fights when he has his TP up. So on the left side of the map, there's only Rift, there's only blue buff. Top tier 1 was already gone the second time Sivir went top. So the things that CLG was trying to pressure just weren't there. So they ended up giving up bot side control, and they gave up a lot of the tempo advantage that they had.
First Drake, yeah.
And it was not any severe misplay other than just the macro play, where they just sent Sivir to the wrong lane.
Ooh, we get ourselves a mini map now on the pause screen, so we can look at that
nice.
as you're mentioning sort of vision control. As it toggles back and forth, right? Like right now we're seeing CLG's vision, and yeah, they
set up vision
completely
in
dark.
topside. Yeah, they set up vision in topside, but there's nothing to get. Like the blue buff's already taking Rift Herald at this stage with Gnar at bot side. Like who are you going to put Rift on? Like Gnar's all the way bot side. So there's nothing for CLG to get up here other than trying to dive the GP. And as you just saw, it didn't work out.
So put yourself in CLG's shoes then, because we know these are good players, of course. So and again, you're disagreeing with the choices, and I understand that, and we're kind of seeing it play out this way. What do you think the thought process was then?
Yeah, the thought process was fine because what CLG wanted was to get the tempo lead and utilize the top side for the tier 1 tower. This was back in around the 6-minute mark.
Right, yeah, at
after they pulled off the dive bot, which was a really good dive. It's just the only thing is that they didn't account for how TSM could react. And with GP's wave clear and Trundle roaming top, they can't pressure the tower. Like, even if Huhi was able to roam top, I don't think they'd be able to dive 4v3 against Rek'Sai, GP, and Trundle. So I think the planning there had to be, hey guys, we can't actually pressure top, so let's just keep matching lanes and push our CS advantage. We're not going to be going for the objective yet. We just have to keep farming since the objective game is not really worth it for us right now. We just want to keep playing lanes, and we keep want to play for CS, not the objective.
Right.
I think it's like much more simpler than that. I think CLG initially swapped, and they tried to dive. They wanted to dive 4v2, but Trundle was there. That was a really good read from TSM. And the second time they tried to swap was, I think they expected TSM to go top. They thought that TSM would swap their lane, which most teams would do, and they would send their bot lane top, but TSM went bottom, and CLG went top. And CLG was like, okay, what do we do now? You have to push. But you can't really push against the GP level 6, who just has the range wave clear, and he has his ult, and they're stuck in a situation. You either dive there, or you go mid. And they chose to dive. And it didn't pay off because GP is extremely hard to dive unless you have everyone there immediately able to flank them. But we saw GP just clear the wave instantly, and they are just behind now. It's just TSM is reading CLG extremely well to the point where TSM is getting ahead. And it's just as simple as that.
There's another topic I want to bring up. We were talking about this before we ever got on camera. Because you were talking about like you were surprised we weren't seeing more Soraka, just in general now that we have 2-on-2s going on. And one of the things that we brought up was like, it feels bad playing Soraka into Jhin, who just like snipes you 4 times and you die. How much of this was so? In the first swap, okay, that was CLG going for a tempo play, and it backfired TSM a good read. At a certain point, though, TSM had vision control bot side, which CLG can't easily fight for, so like they can get surrounded by Rek'Sai for free at any point in time. At a certain point, like, are they not allowed to go back to bot lane because of the vision advantage? Are they not allowed to go to bot lane because with an ultimate, does Jhin now beat Soraka? Like, are there any of these interactions that might have even forced CLG's hand, or were these all sort of overcomeable and it was just reads?
So when you have Soraka, you don't want to break lanes. You want to keep 2v2 as long as possible. When you swap lanes, you're breaking turrets. When you break turrets, you break laning phase. When you break laning phase, you're not going to 2v2 anymore. So Soraka's advantages are much less apparent once you have these lanes where you're just not even laning against their bot lane. And even when you do lane against their bot lane, you either push and you run away, or they push and then they run away. You never actually fight anymore. You never trade. So I don't like what COG did because it didn't pay off, but it could have paid off, right? So it's one of those kind of risk assessments, and this didn't pay off in this case, and it's really going to hurt them as this game keeps going on. As we can see, that Soraka is going to be less and less effective, and the Trundle is just going to be able to pillar him. He's going to be able to follow with Jin W. Like, there's just so many more options that COG will have, the TSM will have against COG's team comp, and it pretty much just snowballed from the fact that they didn't snowball their early advantage that they invested a lot of resources in.
Okay. So I want to take a step sort of in a different direction now and talk about some of the early game stuff. Soraka specifically, itemization, I'm curious about, because in my mind, it feels like Ancient Coin is the best item for her because you get the free health on all the minions dying, and it kind of compensates for your W costing health in the first place. But for the most part in pro play, we see Spell Thieves. Spell Thieves has more potential gold. It does more damage. You're trying to bully someone out of lane. Is that just exactly the break point there? Is pro play just lane dominance is more important?
Yeah, stat-wise, Ancient Coin is worse than Spell Thieves because Spell Thieves gives the AP. Generally, for supports right now, they don't want to be upgrading their support items since Ruby Sightstone is actually a really good rush item. It's the quickest item to complete, and you can start working on your next important item that you might need, like Locket or Mikhail's.
Yeah.
I'd say in the match 2v2 lanes, Coin will give you a lot more sustain, but I'd say for the range matchup into the melee matchup, the sustain isn't as important because you're going to be hitting all the Qs anyways. So that's a stat that's almost irrelevant for Soraka in this lane matchup. But if I was going to be playing Soraka and let's say maybe Nami or Janna, a lane where the trading is going to be a lot more support focused, like maybe if they're controlling the brush more, Soraka is going to be wanting to play a lot more for auto attacks than just trying to poke with Q and back off. So in those matchups, I'd say get Coin, but for the ranged Soraka matchup in a melee matchup, Spell Thieves seems like the much better choice.
So basically, because you'd be taking damage, you'd rather have the regen out of Coin.
Yeah, so there I'd definitely go with Coin for the double range into a double range matchup. But for the melee matchup, since you don't have to take extended trades onto you, you don't really want to take any trades where you have the potential to get all in on as the Soraka side. So the Coin isn't going to be as much of a factor as Spell Thieves. I'd say the differences are slight, but the advantage is definitely for Spell Thieves in this matchup.
Cool, and that's good. Just it's a nice rule that we can teach players that you go and play your next Soraka game on live. Like, oh, I'm against Trundle, I'll go Spell Thieves. Oh, I'm against a Nami or something, I'll go Coin, try to stay alive a bit better. So.
Seems like a pretty good general rule of thumb.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually really good. That helps me as well because I'm not nearly as good as you guys are at this game. Talk to me about then, as you know, we kind of go on. Of course, we have kind of a long pause. The word is Bjergsen's reporting a visual bug with Aurelion Sol. That was the reason to the first pause that seemed to got resolved. We now are in this another pause for the same reason. Hopefully that does get resolved. We'll see what happens. I don't know what we're going to do with this in the near future. But right now, sort of, I love talking items and choices like this because they're nice, easy rules to bring home and kind of use yourself. So recall timing is something that's I think is interesting. I think Sightstone, right, is you would love to get Sightstone first back. If you recall like 550 gold, would you do boots into pink ward? Would you do like an upgraded gold generation? Would you buy Ruby Crystal and hope you get Sightstone next time? And does it matter?
Yeah, so I definitely prefer 800 gold, automatic Sightstone buy for sure. But below 800 gold, you want to be rushing towards Ruby Crystal over boots. And the reason for that is it's quicker to upgrade Sightstone your next back. And the stats, I'd say, are a little more efficient than having just boots in lane. I mean, there's some matchups where having boots is really important, but overall, if you have less than 800 gold, so let's say between like 400 and 700, Health Crystal, a pink ward, and maybe if you're on the higher end side, like 700, you could buy a refillable pot.
Okay, cool. So word on the street, as far as the pause is going, by the way, unfortunately, we will have a remake. So visual bug apparently not able to be resolved. Because of this, Aurelion Sol will also be disabled for the rest of this series until we figure out what else is going on. And because TSM is the one impacted by this, they were offered the remake. They accepted the remake. We will be remaking the game with new picks and bans. And we will have a new Game 1. Our series, unfortunately, off to a rocky start here. But we will be remaking everything and starting over. We're going to have a commercial break as well between this and when that happens. And we'll let you know when all this comes through. So unfortunately, all the wonderful things we talked about in Game 1, I guess the strategic knowledge is still there to be gained, but unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything for the series.
I mean,
It's still wonderful.
It is still wonderful.
Yeah, probably
It's
brought some
still,
good points up.
yeah, actually, you guys have been a really an absolute pleasure to talk to. I'm really thankful for the information you've given us, and when we get the cue to go to commercial, we will at this point. But in the meantime, as we wait for all this to happen and for the Game 1 remake to come in, are there any other thoughts that kind of came to you this game, whether bot lane focused or just the match in general?
I'm honestly surprised they went for the remake. I mean, that was a really good tempo advantage that TSM had, and I would have been like, yo, this is a free game. Like, we're gonna win this
We're
game.
up 500, or we
I'm
scale
actually
better.
not sure how important the early and soul bug is, because
Yeah,
apparently
I don't know.
it's disabled. So maybe it's that game impactful where Bjergsen might, I don't know, have some sort
I
of
don't know what
really
it is.
serious disadvantage.
I don't have the specifics.
But it's actually really big for CL. I mean, really bad for CLG, I think, because with the early and soul disabled, I think the mid lane matchup actually got the overall pool is a little smaller, and that's more room for Bjergsen to maybe hard carry.
Okay, so unfortunately, there may be a bit of weakness for CLG, but guys, it's going to do it for version 1 of Game 1. We're going to toss to a quick break, and we're going to set up for the new champ select and the remake of Game 1, so stick with us. We will be right back.